because you shouldn't have been recording it. If it doesn't look good in camera, don't record it. In today's video, I want to talk about some of the things that actually helped me with my framing and composition, and hopefully it'll help you on the next wedding film that you go out and shoot. Let's get into it. So the first thing in terms of framing and composition that I just want to point out is rule of thirds. I feel like the more people that I bring to shoot with me at a wedding, the more people that I'm trying to teach this style to have the hardest problem learning the rule of thirds. Where to place the subject, when to place them on the third line. I feel like this should be the first thing that you learn when you get your camera is framing, and the rule of thirds is the easiest way to get good at it. A lot of the framing that I see from a lot of filmmakers in the wedding space is that you guys are just pointing the camera and you have none of these tools activated to actually help guide you to making a better creative decision. And I know a lot of these cameras are shooting 4K or maybe 6K or whatever, so you try to crop in and post and fix it, that's cool. But then the second problem to actually framing is depth and having that actual background element or that depth, that contrast between your subject and then the background, or even having foreground elements. When you just shoot with a wide angle lens, which is probably the biggest thing that I see in a lot of these videos that I'm watching, is that y'all are just shooting with a 16 millimeter or 35 prime and you're running all day with it. And to me, I feel like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. You don't need to be wide unless you need the viewer to see more in the frame. Think about it that way. I feel like a lot of us, we're not intentional when it comes to pointing our camera. Instead, we put whatever lens we got on the camera and we just go shoot. And we don't actually look and critique our shot in the moment to figure out, why am I pointing it here? Am I pointing it at the mom and the bride talking? All right, great. Do I have a shot for both of them? No. Do I only have one face? Great. Let me zoom in and show that face to my viewer. These are the things that I think of when I'm framing, when I'm building my shots. I don't just go point the camera, but I'm like, okay, I'm getting reactions. A reaction shot to me means I want you to be able to see that person's emotion. I don't want you to hope, oh, there's two people smiling and then one person looks like he's not invested. I want you to see the people smiling, so I zoom in. Now, I know, before y'all even get into it, talk about, bro, we can't afford a 70 to 200. You don't need a 70 to 200. When I first started out, in fact, I only had a 24 to 70, and for the most of the time, I was actually shooting at 70 millimeters. If you can, the only lens that I think every wedding filmmaker should own right now, if you're starting out into weddings, you're about to hit the ground going with your first wedding next week, you need to have a 24 to 105 f4 lens. Every manufacturer or every mount system has it. L mount, E mount, EF, RF, Z mount with Nikon. Every single camera manufacturer has some sort of 24 to 105 f4 lens. The reason I'm recommending this is because it's the best versatile lens you're gonna get your hands on that'll allow you to be wide enough if your back is up against the wall, but tight enough so you can actually get depth and show the viewer what you want them to see. Now, I feel like there's a bigger elephant in the room on why a lot of y'all don't film tight, and that's probably because you're afraid you're gonna miss a moment. So you shoot everything wide and you shoot everything in slow-mo, and you hope that in post, you got something that's usable that you can just crop into. Does this sound like you? The problem with that is that when you're filming at like 24 millimeters and you zoom in, you're not gonna have enough background depth. So your shot's gonna look flat. Everything's gonna look sharp. It's gonna look bland. I feel like if you're more intentional when you're framing and you have that 24 to 105 on your camera, you're gonna be able to zoom in and show the viewer what you want them to see. I can't say this enough. Show the viewer what you want them to see. Show the viewer what you want them to see. Show the viewer what you want them to see. I gotta say it so many times because I really, really mean this. As much of a run and gun scenario you're gonna be in, you still need to show the viewer what you want them to see. And all this means is, I'm getting a reaction shot, cool. The problem when you try to shoot a group of people reacting is you're always gonna have 4 of them who are checking their Instagram profile right now to see if the girl replied to their DM, right? And then you got 2 other people who are invested, and then you got somebody that's directly behind them that's like digging in their nose. You gotta be strategic with your framing and composition. That's why zooming in and being closer is gonna be your best bet. Not only that, but it honestly makes the shots just look so much more pleasing. If you watch any of the Netflix documentaries or any of the reality shows, you'll see way more tight shots than you will of wide shots. And that's because you can hide so much more with a narrower, I can't say that word, with a narrower field of view. The tighter that field of view is, the easier it is to hide some of these imperfections. One of the biggest imperfections when you're shooting wide is that you're capturing everything, right? Sounds great. But let's say you're in a bridal suite that's filled with windows and it's all backlit. You're not gonna be able to expose for that back outdoor window and the people inside. And being wide, it's just gonna create this ugly halo around them because it's blown out behind them and you cranked your ISO in order to expose for the subject. Well, if you're actually tight, you got a tiny piece of that window that's now in the frame. You have a better chance at exposing for that face instead of showing all 20 windows that's in the bridal suite. This is why zooming in and being tighter actually matters. But in order to be tight and to zoom in like that, you gotta know what you want to focus on. And by knowing what you want to focus on means you're gonna show the viewer what you want them to see. See how I brought that back? That's easy. The next thing that I want to talk about is framing for interviews. This is one of the things that I love to see it happening more, and I'm so happy that people are starting to push the narrative. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you're trying to make it a trend, a video booth, whatever, but getting these interviews and actually getting these sound bites from couples' families is gonna mean way more to them later down the line than you having them go out into a field and dance in the middle of a field, running in slow-mo. They're not gonna care about that when family members start passing away. They're gonna wanna go back to that video, that raw footage file, and look at these interviews. So I'm glad you guys are doing it. I want you to take time and actually frame for this shot. It doesn't have to just be throw your camera on a tripod and hit record. Take time and look at it, assess the shot. This is something that honestly, I feel like you get better with over time. It's just like any skill, you actually get better with it. You got a bump, you have the bumps in the road, you look at the shot, you assess it, you get better the next time you do it. You're gonna get better every time you do it. But one thing to keep in mind is when you're framing or you're setting up for a frame where you got your camera on a tripod for interviews, think about depth, foreground, background, and lighting. Those are the easiest things to just make sure that your shot is always gonna look good. Some of the common things that I see is that most people that are new to doing interviews put their camera on a tripod and they have their person sit right next to a wall. It's literally a dead shot. Don't do that. There's no reason for that. I don't care what the situation is. You're never in that big of a run and gun scenario where you can't pull the chair out a couple feet from the wall, turn it to get some leading lines by using the wall. You're never in that big of a situation where you can't adjust these simple parameters. Take some time and get that framing. The next thing is focus on how the shot looks. You should be able to look at your camera and go, wow, that looks great. Or you should be able to look at it and be like, that's not good. I don't like that. And if you don't like it, stop shooting it. A lot of people that work with me for the first time, I will look at their footage and I will just ask them, yo, why did you record that? What are you doing? And they would be like, they don't have an answer because you shouldn't have been recording it. If it doesn't look good in camera, don't record it, fix it. What does it need? Is it off-centered? Is it too much happening in the background? Is the lighting off? Am I too tight? Do I need to be wider? Do I need an ND filter? What are some of the things that will help that frame look better? If you can start practicing this, I would say take your camera right now, go into your bathroom or go into your bedroom and set up an interview shot there. The reason I'm saying bathroom or bedroom is because those are the tightest spots you'll probably ever find yourself in to do an interview. And if you can get a good frame in there, you'll be set up for success in any scenario. And before you say it, oh, I can't make a bedroom look good. Yes, you can. I've done it. Netflix has done it. So many people have done bedroom interview shots and they look amazing. It just takes a little bit more practice, patience, and self-awareness, just critiquing your own shot. To transition a little bit, I see this a lot in reception footage. And I don't know what it is about y'all, man, but y'all need to stop being shy and get that on the dance floor. Like, get in the circle, man. Like, it's okay. They want to be filmed. They're having fun. They're drinking. They're partying. Point that camera at their face and have fun. Get some camera movement. So many of the reception parties that I see that you guys send me, it looks like we're at a freaking, like, I was about to say funeral, but that's what it looks like. It looks depressing. Like, yo, they're dancing, but there's no life in the footage. Sometimes a good shot is not what's happening in camera, but what the camera is doing to capture it, right? Think about that for a second. If I'm partying and I'm wilding out and I'm going, yo, yo, and the camera is locked off, it's gonna look boring. But imagine if the camera had the same energy that I had, right? It's the same reason that action movies have crazy amounts of handheld shaky footage when the chase scene or the epic shootout is happening. Show that energy in the film. If they're slow dancing, they're two-stepping, everything looks good, right? Maybe it's the couple's first dance. Great. That's a perfect opportunity to throw your camera on the gimbal. You need to take some time to be more intentional with your weddings. I think that's really where this rant is coming from, is that a lot of the films that I see, a lot of you guys are just shooting and you're not actually having any thought process behind why you got the shots that you got. If you can start shooting with intention, your end results will be 10 times better. A lot of y'all are already getting great sound bites. I see it all the time. You guys tag me and I love it. I literally try to like or at least reply to every single one that tags me, and I'm obsessed with seeing the results. You guys are crushing it with the interviews. You're crushing it with trying to break boundaries, wearing your easy rigs, and just really breaking out of that traditional mode of wedding filmmakers. And I love that. But now I want to see you guys really push the narrative and push the look and quality of your films. If you can be more intentional, I think that's what's going to help get you to that next tier.
Way too many nights I spent broke, I've been straight. Way too many nights I went broke, rich in faith. Way too many nights I had tears fill my face.